This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. I am Dr. Duke and I am joined today by Vicki McKenna. Vicki, good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
We have an interesting array of stories today. We even have a little positive news after the first story. We always lead with what is annoying, I suppose. That's the way you do it. We have a school, a public school, that actually created a single-use bathroom for kids who don't want to pee alongside people of the opposite sex. And so school investigates now. The school is upset because there's huge lines of people who want to use the bathroom, the single-use bathroom, because they don't want to be inundated by trans kids. And so this now is a kind of harassment. They set up this bathroom to ameliorate the problem. Then when kids use it, they think these kids are, by simply peeing by themselves, they are harassing implicitly transgender kids.
Oh, yeah. So you have, it's wonderful because the school creates the policy, the kids follow the policy, it's the kids' fault for following the policy, and so now they're engaged in harassment. Couple of things, though, just basic common sense things. If you're going to get a choice between using a public bathroom or a private bathroom, raise your hand if you're going to always opt for the private bathroom. I don't care where I go. If there's an option for a private bathroom, I use the private bathroom. It's just how people are. So one thing, it's just how people are. But secondly, a lot of kids don't want to expose themselves or potentially put them in a position, particularly girls, of having men in the bathroom, particularly in high school, where girls have certain issues. Sometimes they can be very traumatic. At least to a 14, 15, or 16-year-old girl, let's say her period could be very traumatic to her. So they don't want to be around boys when that's happening. Duh. And so now, of course, it's the kids' fault. I hope those kids, and I do believe they are, that they push back, that they say, it's your policy. We are going to abide by your policy. And hopefully it is Illinois, so I'm a little worried, but hopefully the parents don't cave on this because this is what always should happen. You should always reject and resist stupidity. Even if your kids and the stupidity is done by a bunch of educrats, always resist stupidity. And that's all these kids were doing. And they were taking advantage of an opportunity that anybody with common sense, even many years above their age, would also take advantage of, and that, of course, is a private bathroom.
Yeah, this is in Illinois, as you said. This is Waterloo Community Unit School District number 5. And we have actually a quote from the superintendent, and this is unbelievable. He goes to say about this, his name is Brian Charon. When biologically male high school students came forward and stated they were uncomfortable with biological female students using male restrooms, we told those students they could use the nurse's office restroom. It was an effort to support those students' comfort, but unfortunately, it resulted in a disruption. The male students planned to use the nurse's office restroom at the same time, resulting in a line. Okay, so editorial comment. So everybody now has to pee on schedule, but right? This is how this works. You need to get together with all the boys now, and they have to figure out who gets allowed to go when.
That literally did not happen. Yep. Boys are not going to sit around going, you know what? Let's all pee at the same time.
That's right.
Now, girls, on the other hand, we tend to travel in packs to the bathroom. Boys just go there. And incidentally, in case it didn't occur to Mr. Sharon, you only have a limited amount of time between classes for you to use the bathroom. So it is going to necessarily result in a line if boys want to use a single-use bathroom or girls want to use a single-use bathroom rather than the community bathroom. But what I liked about the comment, we tried to do it for their comfort, but it created a disruption. So putting opposite sex kids in the bathroom created a disruption. Now, maybe you did it for those kids' comfort, but it created a disruption. I don't notice Mr. Sharon saying anything about the disruption that he and his policy created for all the other students. I love how these adults refuse to take responsibility for the idiotic decisions that they make that have negative effects on other people's lives, and then complain when those same people find workaround solutions to it.
Yeah, you made a fantastic point. Notice that the normality is girls and boys bathrooms. The new normal, that's not uncomfortable. No one should be bothered by that. So we're going to do a favor. We're going to be really, really generous to these male boys, right? These backward male boys who apparently haven't had enough health and human education to convince them that they're
Toxic
actually
boys.
Exactly. They haven't been cured by the public schools. So we're going to go out on a limb and try to help them. But we did them this favor, and they're betraying us. Look at the end of his statement. We didn't finish that. He said that this line grew dramatically throughout the day, with male and female students filling the hallway and causing students to be tardy or to miss classes. These actions were not the appropriate way to send a message to the school district. We are investigating this behavior as planned harassment of transgender students as well. You have one
This
toilet.
guy should be fired.
Yep.
He should be fired. The school board should get together and say, you're too stupid to be in control of children's education. You're just not smart enough, because this is all pretty common sense stuff. This is not hard to understand.
Well, this is Illinois. What makes us think it wasn't the school board who hired this moron, right?
Well, I'm sure it was the school board who hired this moron, but now it's time for parents to show up at those school board meetings and say, this guy is a tyrant and he has no business being in control of children. This man is now pursuing harassment investigations against what? The entire student body? That is absurd. And you're right, the school board was probably the one who selected this guy, and a whole bunch of leftists are probably on the school board because, let's face it, most people don't pay attention to their school board elections because they happen in spring when nobody's paying any attention to school board elections. So now it's time for parents to rally, show up at that school board, and either bring that superintendent to heel and make him say yes sir, no ma'am, like a good employee is supposed to respond to their boss, the people. So yeah, the parents are going to have to get involved in this and either run this guy out or make sure that he is on a short leash.
Well, they talk about an investigation with suspected harassment, but before the investigation even takes place, they've already punished those kids. Listen to this. Some students were already punished by being marked tardy or absent for class because they were waiting for the bathroom stall. Students who attempt to repeat today's actions will be disciplined for attempting to cause a disruption in the school. And you and I both know if a trans kid a girl went to a boy's bathroom and came back tardy to the classroom, there's no way repeatedly they could do that. There would be no consequences for this.
I don't know what the follow-up on this story is. I confess I didn't look for the follow-up on this story, but all it would take is a week of this and that policy would go. That's all it would take. A week of this and the policy would go. But I don't know what's wrong with kids these days. And I honestly don't, because back in the 80s when I was in high school, no problem. There would have been enough of us who were aggravated enough and righteous enough as students, not even consulting with our parents. There were enough of us kids who were confident enough to actually say, no, this is not something that is acceptable. We knew the difference between right and wrong, and we would have been willing to stand up for ourselves. So I hope those kids the next day did the exact same thing, and the next day, and the next day. My suspicion is they didn't, but I would have taken 100 tardies before I would have in high school gone to the bathroom with a boy in the next stall. I would have taken suspension before I would have gone to the bathroom with a boy in the next stall. And that's just what I would have done just because it's so uncomfortable. But, if it were a cause, sure. So I'm hoping these kids found their, sort of their inner rebels and kept this up to the point where that policy and Mr. Sharon had to change and all harassment investigations were rescinded. Otherwise, they should contact the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, who in fact does work across state lines.
Well, I got to tell you, if it were me, I would be very tempted to get a bunch of kids who started and bring a change of clothes, right? Bring a duffel bag and pee in class. Just pee right in class, because you're going to punish me if I go to the bathroom, if I'm late, you're going to punish me so you can deal with this. That would be one hell of a protest.
I would have called that an escalation in the protest, on the protest continuum myself. I would have done that last, Duke, not first.
Well, we're going to take a short break and come back with more stupidity being fought now. How kids, if this is indeed a intentional protest, I don't think it was meant to be. Let's look at some girls who are actually fighting the system after the break. Virginia, what we hardly knew you before you went away. It seems to be the epicenter outside of California for so much dumb stuff when it comes to progressive education. But we now have this is how things will change, and only way it will change. We have young girls now speaking out and defying their schools because of male athletes encroaching on female sports. This is a good idea. This, of course, Riley Gaines was the first one to start speaking about that. And you and I, Vicki, have talked about this a lot. Unless the girls themselves who play these sports protest vocally, because if most of them do it, there's nothing the schools can do to them. And so this is how you do it. So in Roanoke, Virginia, the battle where Penn swimmer Leah Thomas started a couple of years ago is now being reified by the girls themselves. Take a quick little video from Riley Gaines, some conversation about this, and we can come back and talk about what's going to happen next in this country.
Fairness and equality. That's what student athletes and women rights activists say they were prioritizing with today's event, calling attention to what they say were efforts to intimidate and silence them.
My feelings, our team's feelings, and comfort were blatantly ignored, and only one athlete was prioritized. I felt unheard and unseen. Our comfort was undervalued and discarded.
Captains of the Roanoke College's swim team, as well as former athletes and other organizations in attendance, say this whole thing is about protecting the rights of women in sports.
Fairness in sport includes opportunities for women and girls to participate in sports and physical education on a single-sex basis.
They're calling for change on multiple levels, both within the NCAA and Virginia, but they weren't the only ones with opinions on the matter.
If we really want to have equity and parity in women's sports, we need to be focusing on making sure that their coaches are being paid the same as the men. We need to be focusing on making sure that their training facilities are as good as the men's, and not paying attention to this dog whistle that is, quite frankly, very harmful.
Yeah, I love all those girls, young women, athletes, scholars. They're there, they're well-spoken, they're not inflammatory, they're being very cautious, they're being very direct about what we want. And then you get this creature, ignore the dog whistle, ignore the women.
Ignore those girls,
right?
Ignore all the women, and listen to what I have to say. Ignore all of what the women are saying the women want, and listen to me tell you instead. Let me substitute what they want. What they really want is men and women's sports and better training facilities, was basically what she was saying. Or is she saying he or they? I have no idea. But here's the great thing about what those girls did, and you can look this story up. Those girls threatened to walk off and leave that team with one swimmer. That is what those girls did. That is what girls must do. You must all threaten. And yes, is it fair? Is it fair to you? No, but none of this is fair. You're going to have to forgive the cliche, take one for the team being women, the team being culture, the team being the rule of law. But that's what these girls were willing to do. They were willing to deny themselves the opportunity to compete because the team put a boy on the swim team. That's what they did. That's what all the girls, it would only need to happen for one semester. That's all. I mean, just once, every single girls' team, the majority of girls say, well, we're not going to play. All right, fine. We're not going to play. We're not going to swim. You can figure out how to have, softball competitions with one man. He can play all of the positions. He can be one man on the volleyball team against the entire opposing team's team. That's what has to happen. And this BS stops. There's a bunch of stories lately. So I'm somewhat heartened by this. There's a bunch of stories lately of kids, because these bathroom policies are ubiquitous, of these kids just walking out. Most of the kids. And it doesn't even take most of the kids. It takes a substantial minority of the kids to do this, to make a dent in this insanity. And so not to mention, you've got multiple states that are now pursuing legislation to protect girls' privacy facilities, girls in sports, girls' opportunities. So, I hate that it has to be the kids, but it has to be the kids. Apparently their parents are too big of cowards to stand up to coaches and fight these fights for them. And certainly their coaches and their teachers and their administrators are too big of cowards to do anything to protect these girls. And so it is going to ultimately be on the girls themselves. Shame on all of the parents, the coaches, and the men, especially the men who wouldn't stand up and defend women.
This is interesting. If enough female athletes at the college level walked out, at the high school level too, this would create a real threat to Title IX, right? Which is garbage, which is way overdue for being removed. Think about this. Then, now, of course, what the lawyers for the schools would say, well, these girls quit. This is not a Title IX issue. But no, it would force a court case, right? It is indeed a Title IX problem, which was initially supposed to be only about women, right? About protecting the rights of women. And so these women would be able to say they have violated Title IX by allowing men to take spaces away from women, to allow men to bully and to threaten female athletes.
And to put women at risk of sexual violence as well, which is also what Title IX was designed to protect for women in schools.
And this is what we need.
I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. You don't need, a mass protest to make a Title IX challenge. So if anybody's out there, you don't need, 15 schools, girls teams at 15 schools doing this. If this is happening, you can bring this challenge as well. I mentioned the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. They're a wonderful public interest law firm. They work pro bono. They take these cases in order to clarify the Constitution or to protect people's, from violations of their civil liberties. So they're easy to find. You can just look up the name and reach out to some of the lawyers. They're exceptionally talented as well. So bring these cases because, the United States Supreme Court was the reason this garbage happened. And our alleged, originalist Justice Neil Gorsuch honestly is the reason this is all upon us in a nightmare. But bring it back to clarify the decision that has essentially allowed a whole bunch of left-wing lawyers to advise school districts to destroy opportunities for real girls and real women.
Yeah, I just want to, before we go on to our last story, I want to give you the voice of one of these female swimmers, Bailey Gallagher, 20-year-old. She is a senior captain. I want to reframe this for you. She says, quote, "I felt unheard and unseen. Our comfort was undervalued and discarded. Numerous times we asked the school for support. Each and every time we were told to deal with it ourselves or told nothing at all. The school refused to give out information to our parents, and we were informed that even if our entire swim team decided to stand together and not swim in the name of fairness, that what was happening, our coach would have a one-person team." So we came with grievances. We were threatened. We felt and we were being persecuted to some degree. We went to the authorities, and they said, deal with it yourself. Can you imagine in any other circumstance which women treated this way would not be able to have a huge win in court against these schools?
Well, I think this should be brought in court. They've got claims. They've got a lot of claims under Title IX. If this would have happened in a workplace, there would have been multiple claims. Managers would have been fired. Payouts would have been made by companies. They would have had to tap into the insurance policies. So these girls have a claim. Ultimately, the boy quit. The boy quit the team. And so, maybe there's a lawyer out there advising them, okay, well, the situation has been resolved. No, there have been multiple violations, and it continues today. If it happens again, these girls are going to be told you are on your own. You figure it out. You figure out how to figure it out. And that is is not what is supposed to be happening under the law. So, I mean, again, if there's anyone out there in a similar situation, you have a claim, and reach out and find one of these public interest law firms. I recommend the one that we have here in Wisconsin, because you have a claim. And it's time to start bringing this stuff into federal court. And it's time to bring enough of these cases into federal court where we can get it all the way to the United States Supreme Court, because they don't want to confront their failure in this either. But let's give them an opportunity to do the right thing and correct their error.
Well, we go from the inspiring to the ludicrous. Princeton University, Vicki, which is at an apex predator of stupidity, I would call them, in the Ivy League, perhaps just behind Harvard and Yale in the pecking order of dumbness. They have decided they're going to become Drag Queen University, because that's what $100,000 a year in tuition and room and board will get you. This is the new Drag University oversight. Drag University is a new program housed under the mentorship of pillar of the Gender Plus Sexuality Resource Center. How much money are they pumping into this? A Gender Sexuality Resource Center. This year-long program will teach about the history of drag, as well as the art form of drag. Sessions will be taught by local drag performers, on-campus partners who know their way around machines, and other students. This program is open to undergraduate and graduate students. What does any of this have to do with machines? Good for the love of God. They can't even do a press release. This is Princeton University.
Okay, so the Ivy League is hilarious at this point. The Ivy League, the problem with the Ivy League, and the reason why we have to continue to contend with the Ivy League, is that the Ivy League is what gives us federal judges. And so that is a serious problem, because in the law schools, they're teaching future lawyers, future American lawyers, to hate the United States and to find ways to deconstruct the Constitution. So the Ivy League still matters in that it has to be dismantled. It's stranglehold on elite institutions has to be dismantled. But that aside, if you don't have the chops or the finances to afford the $100,000 a year tuition at Princeton, you can call me and I will help you put on makeup like a woman, like a tramp. I will help you make your face up like a $5 hooker. I will help you find the stores on Amazon where you can buy the cheapest version of the 5-inch stiletto lucite heels. I will help you, and I will do it at a cut rate. I will do it for $50 a pop. You don't need to go to Princeton and spend $100,000. I got you, girls. I got you, sisters. You can just call me, and I will teach you how to look like a $5 tramp. For a whole lot less money. We can just, we can hit the Amazon and the wish.com together, and we can pick out some nice, cheap Chinese lingerie for you in a size XXXXXXL. We can find you some nice sequined panties that can help you tuck your junk. You just let me know. I am here to advise you. Consider me the Stitch Fix for drag queens.
Now, do you want me to put your phone number at the bottom of the video so they can call you?
You can find me via email. No, what is this? This is the Ivy League saying, we're going to charge you $100,000 so that we can teach you how to caricature women. I mean, these are caricatures of women. And the only women who might even kind of sort of look like this were $5 hookers from the 1970s. So that's what they're saying, is that somehow this is valued academically. No, it's not. And it's interesting. No women are going to be teaching the makeup portion of this, or the lingerie portion of this, or the dance portion of this. I mean, people, I've got some great jazz hands. Really. If you want a consult and you want a cut rate and you'll look exactly the same as the Princeton drag queens, you just give me a call.
We're just about out of time, but we would be very remiss if I didn't show you quickly what some of the workshops are. Oh, my goodness. This is the kind of stuff that they're doing here, right? This is from the College Fix, obviously. So they have drag history, 3D printing and scanning for garments, okay? Wig and garment design, painting your face, drag history, workshop refreshers, and choreography. There's your jazz hands. Attitude and workshop time. That sounds like an Ivy League's class, right? Real rigorous. Attitude. So you got to have that attitude. And Vicky,
Attitude.
You can teach him. You can teach him the strut, can't you? Yeah, I know that you could. All right. So anyway, that's going to wrap up the show. If you enjoy the program, and how can you not, please subscribe to our brand new podcast channel. Simply search Dr. Duke Show on your favorite free platform. And don't forget to follow us on Rumble. Visit rumble.com/FreedomProject to follow us. And for all of us here, and for your new career, Vicky, as a trans consultant, a drag consultant, thank you, and we'll see you next time.